And we're joined by Mr. George A.K., who is a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's all over the place now. Haven't heard Kaduna State governors representing, speaking about what the acting president said. And the acting president, in turn, as we have also read from the daily, is speaking about what the president had told him. So the acting EFCC chair going nowhere. I remember the Senate, they had dug in saying, no, you have to get him out because we've come to that point, that resolution. Else, they won't consider perhaps any more nominees from the executive. Where do you see all of these things headed?
You see, there is a degeneration, as it were, with regard to the relationship between the executive and the legislator. Let's face it, that is what is happening. You know, it has cascaded from the controversial constituency projects that we talked about, a few weeks ago, with regard to how the legislature stuffed the budget of the executive with, at least according to media reports, about 4,000 projects, belonging to them that did not pass through due process and all of that, and they forced it on the executive. I'm not too sure executive was very, very comfortable with that because from the body language, it looked like the vice president had to just sign that budget, reluctantly sign that budget, as manifested in the remark made by Fashola later with regard to how the legislature balkanized the budget to such an extent that they cannot really execute it the way they wanted to execute it. But I think the vice president just signed it because that budget has stayed with the legislature for about 6 months. And he couldn't afford to continue to wait or waste time. He had to do that. But I'm not too sure he's happy with that. So now we are faced with the problem of Magu. But cast your mind back to the recent decisions of the Senate. Senate also approved the nomination of 2 ministers, and I'm sure you remember that, for Kogi and Gombe. The executive, for some reason, has not sworn them in.
Yeah.
And Senate is not bothered about that. They are bothered about another decision, which is that of Magu, where they at least did not approve that nomination. And Senate appears to be doing work to rule, because it's like if Magu does not go, they are no longer going to work.
So why this resurgence, from the senators and this obsession that Magu must go? Is there more than meets the eye?
Yes, I have always thought that there must be something that executive has not told us, regarding this idea of trying to recycle Magu's nomination. I wouldn't use the word force Magu down our throat, because that would be too harsh on the executive, in the sense that they must know what we do not know about how Magu is fighting the corruption war. And there must be something that the Senate is particularly scared of that makes them reject Magu no matter the number of times you bring them.
Scared?
Why do you use the word scared?
Yeah, sure. Because if you see the newspaper reports, it's like those who are scared of Magu must have to work with Magu for the rest of the time that the president is going to be in office.
Can we see use,
and I see that as
sorry to jump in. Can we use the word scared, especially if you see that they say, look, we can't ignore the security report we have from DSS. What do we do with that?
Yes, you see, quite a number of things led to the non-confirmation of Magu. And as at that point in time, my opinion was that if Magu did not apparently came for a job interview, and that if he didn't perform well, that he should fail. But you see, I've had a second thought on that matter, and I found out that Magu probably has a dossier or has a number of things that we do not know, some pieces of information that we do not know, that the president wants to use him for. Maybe about quite a number of politicians, because, these politically exposed persons all have, quite a number of them have skeletons in their cupboards.
Does that invalidate his performance in the Senate?
Yes and no. Yes, to the extent that on the surface of it, he probably didn't impress the Senate. And to that extent, they lacked in on the fact that he also has a bad security report and disqualified him. But behind it, like you see, when we do our analysis, we also do it as politicians, because there are quite a number of other things that the politicians wouldn't like to tell the public. And that is why when at times you hear a closed-door meeting, that closed-door meeting is the media is shut out and people talk. And by the time they finish talking, they appoint somebody, say, Gimba, you address the press, and this is what you tell them. Why didn't you allow the press come in the first instance, since you say you are running a transparent government? So there must be something you hold back, and then there is other things that you tell the press. So those are things that are confusing. But you see, let's get down to, you know, the constitutional provision of maybe the vice president's or the presidency's insistence, since it's not just the acting president, but we now hear that he has spoken to his principal, that is the president, and the president says as long as he remains in office, Magu is going to be there. You know, lawyers are divided in opinions with regard to this matter. One group says, so long as the Senate has rejected Magu, that the acting appointment of Magu ceases. I'm sure Adeboluwa is one of the people leading that opinion or that view, saying the moment Magu comes back from the Senate, having been presented for confirmation, he doesn't get confirmed, then the acting appointment ceases. And as a matter of fact, people have gone to court now. So that is even why I think the Senate should not be discussing it, because part of the rules of the Senate is that they should not discuss a matter that is in court. The court has been approached to give a proper interpretation to this. Because at the end of the day, that is what is going to happen, because there is a constitutional crisis appearing in the horizon now. Why? Another group now says, led by Falana and group, that it was even a mistake in the first instance to have sent Magu's name to the Senate. That they have found out that Magu's appointment is not particularly one of those ones contemplated by the Constitution to be sent to the Senate, even though it has been done over years, but that it is wrong. That again brings us to the fact that why do we have to now begin to do this research because of Magu's rejection? That puts another question mark on why Magu, in a situation where it is almost like you are personalizing an institution for the performance of a particular institution around a particular person. Why can't there be other police people in the mold of Magu that can run the EFCC?
Do you think that with Magu continuing in office, the war against corruption would have been enhanced? Or if he gets out and someone else sits in there, what difference will that person make?
That is the thinking of the executive, not my thinking. The executive thinks that with Magu in office, that the war on corruption will be on a very good course. That is why they have presented him 2 times. And having been rejected 2 times, at least having been screened properly once and rejected, they are saying he must remain there.
Do you think the acting president has been frustrated?
No, we are not even talking about frustration. But you see, I think the acting president is now, trying to couch the decision of the presidency on Section 1716. Section 1716 says that, okay, at least having argued that Magu's appointment comes under extra-ministerial appointments, which does not necessarily require the Senate confirmation. And Section 1716, if you permit me, says okay, but the
go ahead,
find it. 6
1716.
Okay, let's see the one you got.
You have it? Good. It says, any appointment made pursuant to paragraphs A and E of the subsection 2,
Yeah.
that's above, of this section, shall be at the pleasure of the president and shall cease when the president ceases to hold office. So, in other words, the president is saying, I've made this appointment, and it can only cease when I cease to hold office. And that is why we are saying that Magu will remain in office until the tenure of the presidency, expires.
But you haven't told
and
us
one of the
your
people that
conclusion.
hold this opinion is Professor Sage.
You haven't told us your conclusion about those two schools of thought.
You see, my conclusion will now be a situation where I'm like preempting the decision of the court. Like I told you, this matter is already in court, and it doesn't show scholarship for me to begin to, give my own ruling when the court has already been seized with the matter.
But this is not a ruling.
No. The whole idea is that we have always advocated as lawyers that when there is this kind of constitutional confusion, approach the court. And that's what people have done. It is already in court.
Constitutional. Okay.